If you're watching this video, you're more than likely a sports coach or someone that works in sport, and you want to know more about how you would work with a sign language interpreter. Well, don't worry, because you've come to the right place. Here are some basic tips ranging from where to stand, to when to speak, to what they do. Also, there is an information booklet that will be attached to the info down below. So this first tip that I'm going to give you, you might think it's one of those which is quite obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people actually do it. I call this one using the interpreter as a microphone.
Hey guys, today we're going to be working with the machines over here to your right, and also we're going to be doing some other stuff which I'll explain later.
Yeah, so don't do this. It's annoying for the interpreter. As you can see, the interpreter feels really uncomfortable in this situation. Like personal space. Everybody needs personal space for them to do a job. How would you feel if somebody came and just like stood too close to you whilst you were trying to give like a demonstration or something like that? That's kind of how it would be for the interpreter. So just try to stand further apart. Try not to be too much in their personal space. So yeah, being too much in the personal space might affect the actual interpretation you'll get, which could mean that the deaf person might not be able to fully understand what you mean, which could obviously have an effect on the rest of the session or rest of the program. The interpreter will be able to hear you just fine if you just stand next to them, like a foot away from them, 2 foot. Try not to stand too far away from them, because obviously then they might not be able to hear you properly. This is where you should really stand.
Alright guys, today we're going to be working on a couple of machines over here, and then shortly afterwards we're going to be moving into a different studio and we're doing some different exercises.
So, as you can see in this video, the interpreter is comfortable and the signing has vastly improved. Just being thoughtful of where to stand can help you get your message across to the deaf individual through the interpreter. This next little clip and this next little tip is for all you pacers in the world. This can be incredibly annoying for the interpreter and the deaf individual, as you can block what the interpreter is saying, thus breaking down communication.
So, we've already used a couple of the machines. I want us to go into the studio next, and we'll do a couple more exercises, and we'll see how the session goes.
Yeah, don't do this. Remember that sign language is a visual language. It isn't like a spoken language where you can close your eyes and listen. Walking in front of the interpreter is like playing loud music whilst you're trying to speak. It just doesn't work. Really, you should be near the interpreter so that they can clearly hear you, like this.
Right, well now we've finished the session of using the machines, we're going to move into a different area and probably going to do some laps, and we'll carry on with the session later on.
This next tip isn't about where to stand, but instead it should hopefully help you to understand the role of the interpreter a bit better, especially in the sporting environment or in a classroom and them sorts of environments. I call this one the pack mule. The interpreter isn't there to be your assistant. They're there to help you communicate with the deaf individual. So don't go giving them jobs where they can have to set up a certain exercise. That isn't their job, and they will most likely give you a "are you being serious" look. However, saying that, some interpreters might not mind giving you a hand with a few things. Just remember that their job is to interpret, not to do odd jobs for you. Right, this next tip is to give you some knowledge about lag time. Yeah, you might not know what that is at first, but I'll just give a quick explanation as to what it is. Lag time is the amount of time the interpreter gives themselves to process what you're saying. This allows for better interpretations. Interpreters cannot immediately interpret what you're saying straight away, so don't expect them to start and stop signing as soon as you start speaking and stop speaking. So, for example, don't do this.
Hi guys, today we've obviously done quite a fair few exercises. Are you getting this?
Yeah, carry on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, fine.
Okay, you just got signed. Anyway, so we're going to do a couple more exercises. Okay. And we can move on.
Basically, what I'm trying to say is, don't be worried if the interpreter doesn't start straight away. They're only just using a bit of lag time so they can understand what you're saying, so they can give a clear interpretation. So that means the deaf individual will be able to understand the interpreter and you a lot better. Otherwise, if you do what I did in the video and just keep interrupting, you'll disrupt the actual flow of your session, so it could affect you overall. This next tip will give you some idea on when to start talking and when to stop. You really shouldn't do this.
Right, so we've done a really brilliant session today, and I'm really quite proud of what you've achieved. And also, I'd just like to congratulate you all. It's been fantastic working with you all today.
Instead, you should just talk normally because the interpreter will be able to remember what you've said. However, if the interpreter does fall too far behind, don't be surprised if they ask you to stop for a second so they can catch up. It probably won't happen much though. This next tip is a big one. If you're in the gym giving an induction or something, please make sure the music is either turned off or turned down. This particular scenario can be a nightmare for the interpreter, which I'm pretty sure you'll see the problem from this little video. As you can tell, it is basically impossible for the interpreter to be able to hear you. Don't just think, oh, it's sign language for deaf people. They can't hear, so they won't mind the music being kept loud. Don't think that's just naive. Remember that the interpreter needs to hear you too, in order for them to communicate what you're saying. This next tip is one that is probably obvious, but a lot of people seem to forget this. The interpreter is a human being. They do get tired. They aren't a robot that can run endlessly on coffee and Lucozades. They may need a break for their signing to be at a good level in order to interpret properly and clearly. If they do get exhausted, you could end up with a terrible miscommunication and the deaf person not understanding the session or what you've been saying. So give them regular breaks if need be. So don't run around the whole entire session. Give them some breaks. Don't do this.
What's wrong with it? We need to get on with this.
No, just
we need to do this. We've got another job to do.
You're fine.
Oh.
If you're going to be speaking for long periods of time, using a wide range of specialised vocabulary, then you should consider getting 2 interpreters. This means that you can share the workload, and also try to book 2 interpreters that have had experience in the sporting industry. If they have experience, then they should be aware of how things work in the sporting environment. The last tip that I'm going to give you is one of the most important ones. Give them preparation. I say this because if the interpreter goes into a scenario and they do not know the context, then they will make interpreter errors. This could mean that you will not get the best possible interpretation and you can run the risk of the deaf person having no idea what you're talking about. For example, in this scene, the interpreter doesn't understand the terminology being used by the sports instructor.
Okay, next we're going to be moving on to these the mats here. We're going to be working on our abdominals.
Sorry, where are the abs?
Here, yeah. And then also we're going to be doing some leg work. So we're working on our triceps. Arm work. We're working on our triceps, our biceps. That one. Yeah, and then biceps. That one. And then also we're working on our chest. And we're doing our, I think we should go on to our calves. Yeah, we'll go on to our calves next after that.
Sorry, where? There. Is that the calves?
That one, yeah, that's it, yeah. And then we should probably be finishing off today.
Where and when you can, give the interpreter some prep beforehand. Even if it's a brief summary of what your plan will be for the next few hours, something is better than nothing. This will help your lesson or whatever scenario you are in to go smoothly. I hope this video has helped you understand how to work with an interpreter and what to do and what not to do. After I've stopped speaking, I will show you some web links that you can visit to get more information on how to work with an interpreter. Also, they'll be in the info down below. If you have any further questions about this topic, then by all means contact me on these details. They'll be down there. Thanks for watching.
alone, and I feel hate.